Well, you the one talking about. I guess
I think your fake
eyelashes
are messing up.
No, ain't nothing.
Hold on.
Listen.
Order.
Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
You know, John, there comes a time when I just have to come clean with a couple things. One of them is my voice is going. We just started the show. And you know what the other one is?
What is that?
Actually, two more things. I do wear fake eyelashes. And
Well, who doesn't? Yeah.
who doesn't nowadays? And I do have a therapist. My therapist is Lorenzo von Matterhorn, and I just want everybody to know that that's who my therapist is, and he's helped me out quite a bit.
A Matterhorn, now that has some sort of Native American overtones, doesn't it, Brad?
Well, just look up, just Google my therapist. You'll find out how world-class therapist is Lorenzo von Matterhorn. It's just like it sounds, Matterhorn. Okay, enough of the personal stuff. We have with us that guy who is, when I'm not talking, he's talking. His name is John Combest, Combest. He has a website. What's that website again, John?
It is called bradhildebrand.com. You can find it at brad.cam, or you can find it at johncombest.com.
No, it's johncombest.com, Combest. He puts together this list for 22 years, never misses a day, puts all this information, and essentially it's like the Missouri Drudge Report. We talked about that just, Monday? Was it? Or Monday, yesterday, we talked about the Missouri Drudge Report, right?
Yeah, that's a high compliment, yeah.
Yeah. Is Drudge still involved with that, or is he out of that? He's gone, isn't he? Didn't he sell out?
I think he's been gone for a while. I'm not sure, though. I think he's been gone for a while.
Okay. John puts together this extensive list, and then what we do is we start off every show in what we call the A block, which is, sort of radio kind of talk. The A block, and we bring this guy in. What's your name again, sir?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And he counts them down, and John gives us the start, which is always...
In third place.
Brad, some folks from St. Louis City might be headed out to West County to Chesterfield. But no, you don't have to lock your doors and make sure you have your valuables out of sight. These are state employees, Brad, and the state of Missouri is selling 2 office buildings in the city of St. Louis. Did you see the story yesterday, Brad?
I did, and I have mixed emotions about it, to be honest with you.
Well, whatever side that you're on, Brad, of the particular mixed emotion, I will take the other side just for the sake of being argumentative. But for folks who don't know, in downtown St. Louis, there is an iconic building that is a historical building called the Wainwright SOB, Wainwright State Office Building. And then there's another one at the corner of Jefferson and Market. But of these buildings, the state of Missouri voted yesterday to sell those buildings and then move employees to God's country, to Chesterfield, the land of safety, milk, honey, and lower crime, except for if you're around the outlet malls. Go ahead, Brad.
And Top Golf.
And Top Golf, yeah, exactly.
Right.
Which, as someone who is a devoted reader of the St. Louis, of the Chesterfield police reports, a lot of times hoodlums come out to the Top Golf. I guess there's a lot of good stuff to steal out there. Most of the crime in Chesterfield is out at the outlet malls. Folks come from the urban core and steal stuff out at the outlet mall. But Brad, let's get back to the story. So that sitting on the board on the Missouri Board of Public Buildings includes Governor Parson, Lieutenant Governor Kehoe, Attorney General Andrew Bailey. So in short, the state is selling these buildings. They're offloading these buildings, and they'll be acquiring a facility in Chesterfield. Some state employees now, think of the employees that you need in St. Louis City, Brad. Department of Corrections, for jailbirds. You need DSS for welfare handouts. So a lot of those employees will stay in the city of St. Louis, but other state employees will move out to Chesterfield. The story I have up today is from Kurt Erickson, who, as we know, is Mr. Warmth and Big Bowl of Smiles. And he hold on one second here. Oh, yeah, I do have a link. I thought I didn't have a link up, but I have a link up to the archived, the paywall-free version on my website for folks who want to see it.
I heard about this yesterday. Andrew Bailey was on 97.1 talking about this with Mark Cox. Then he was on with Brian Kilmeade. Then he was on with Annie Fry. Then he was on with Mark Reardon. Then he was on with Jimmy Fela. Then he was on with even with the real estate guy, Del Walmsley. And
I saw that, yeah. And then at night he was on with a big bumper.
Right.
And he was on. He's a big Jim White guy too, so he was on with Jim White and Bob Holder. He was on with Bob Holder too. You remember Bob Holder?
I do. I think Andrew Bailey has an office down at Odyssey. I think he is like a room where they just, hey Andrew, you haven't been on the air in 2 hours. Come on in.
He's down at Jefferson Barracks with Beetle Bailey. And for the record, that's my second Beetle Bailey reference in 2 days, which has to be a new record.
Okay, my comment on this, I've been down to the Wainwright building many times. Used to be I don't know if it's still there, but it used to be the field office for the Secretary of State. You can go in and do some things there in the Secretary of State's office. That is a historic building. And essentially, it's sort of interesting because in its day, it was a skyscraper. I don't know if a lot of people realize this. I believe it was finished in the late 1890s, wasn't it? Built like 1892 or something like that?
I'm not sure, but it was a long time ago, yeah.
Right. And they've modernized it. I mean, it's very nice inside. Matter of fact, I will tell you how I got in trouble there one time. Want me to tell you in trouble?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. For Christmas, somebody, I think it was one of my kids, somebody in my family gave me one of these little tiny Leatherman. You know what a Leatherman tool is? You know what the Leatherman tools are?
Oh, yeah. And you tried to bring that in?
Well, I didn't even realize that I had it. I mean, this was a little tiny Leatherman. If you know what a Leatherman is, it's like a multi-tool where like it turns into a wrench and a paper, a scissors and a wire cutter and stuff like that. And I had a little tiny one that had like maybe a 1-inch blade knife on. And I didn't even think about it. I had it on one of my key rings. And I go into the state office building there, and I had to park like 3 or 4 blocks away. And I pulled it out, and this guy saw it right away. He says, "Sir, you can't bring that in. You have to put that back in your car." And I go, "I park like 3 or 4 blocks away." And he goes, "I'm sorry, you have to walk it back to your car." So I go outside, and there's 2 of these big pots that have plants in them.
Oh, yeah.
So I took the Leatherman tool off my key ring, and I stuffed it in the mulch. And he saw me do this, and he came out and told me he was going to arrest me.
Oh, wow. For hiding of munitions in public property.
Well, it was a deadly weapon, a 1-inch bladed knife. So I had to, I walked around the block, and I can't remember what building it was. I literally walked around the block, and there was a windowsill around the block, and I put it on the windowsill, and I went in, did my business, came back out, and my little Leatherman tool was still there. So that's my stupid little story.
Was the chief security officer, was he a muscular black guy, Brad?
Well, there are quite a few muscular dudes there, and some of them are black, some of them are white. You don't want to mess with them, they're...
Yeah, I asked because I used to work in that building, Brad.
Did you really?
Yeah, I worked for the Missouri Secretary of State's office in 2003, 2004.
I might have been in that office before when you were there.
Yeah, you if you came down to do paperwork in those years, there's a good chance that I ignored you and brushed you off.
Wow, just like all the government employees, right? Okay.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful building. I mean, I parked in the parking garage across the street. Yeah, I know the building very well.
Okay, John, what's the reasoning for this? Is this just sort of like a third phalanges to the city of St. Louis, or what exactly is this move? Is this to the point where, because, once again, I read the story. I read it on a couple different sites, and they're talking about how this is a double blow to the city of St. Louis. It knocks, or the downtown St. Louis, or even, the city of St. Louis, they're actually moving out to the county, that it knocks down less employees will be employed in the city of St. Louis, which will hurt their earnings tax. Do you know what the reason behind this is?
Yeah, for sure. So, by the way, what you mentioned there's a statement from Connor Kerrigan, who is a city spokesman, who, by the way, used to work for the Missouri Times, and Scott Fong. Connor did. And he gives a statement about the fact that there was no prior communication from the governor or any member of the board about the sale of state buildings. Now, what Kurt Erickson points out, to his credit in this story, is that in 2019, a group of state workers came to Governor Parson and essentially said, "Get us out of the city. We don't want to work down here anymore. It's too dangerous. Please let us leave the city." And Governor Parson at that time said no. So that is highlighted. Kurt Erickson links to that previous piece in his piece that's up today. But I think it's probably just the reality of what's happening in the city, Brad. And then I also think I'm not sure exactly what the occupancy is at the Wainwright SOB now, but as you know, if you take a look at the commercial real estate market and the value of those properties post-COVID, I'm sure the state looks at whatever property they have and says, look, we're not getting any return on just owning this building. I would guess that the building, Brad, to use a financial term, is a melting ice cube. It's just a building that loses money every year. You have lower and lower occupancy. Sell it, get it off your hands, get it off the books, and allow your employees to flee to safety.
Interesting. Okay, number 2.
Up a notch to number 2.
An internal poll in the Missouri governor's race, Brad. Let's put a pin in the word internal, because if you want an internal poll to be viewed by other people, it's probably not internal, is it, Brad?
No.
The headline from the Missouri Independent, this piece is by Jason Hancock. The headline is Internal Poll by Pro-Kehoe PAC suggests a 3-way race for Missouri governor, a 3-way Republican primary for governor. Now, the gist of the story, Brad, is that Mike Kehoe's PAC, which is called the American Dream PAC, or as Dusty Rhodes would say, the American Dream, baby, did a poll with American Viewpoint, which is a reputable Republican pollster, that showed Kehoe and Ashcroft tied at 27%, with Eigel in third place at 16%. Now you say, John, okay, a dead heat between those guys. What's the big hubbub about this poll? The real catch here, Brad, is that this shows a surge in Eigel's numbers. And in fact, the key quote here from the Kehoe pollster was, quote, if Eigel is able to attract additional resources, this could become a true 3-way contest. Now, Brad, what's interesting about this is this poll was conducted and this analysis was conducted in June. The poll was actually conducted in early June, which means that all of this happened before Bill Eigel raised. He raised about $440,000 or $450,000 last week, I believe it was. Maybe it was the week prior. But anyway, recently he has gotten a huge influx of cash and has been able to get up on TV. So the point is that at least by early June, Bill Eigel ascended from high single digits into double digits and has made this a 3-way race.
You know, and you and I have talked about this. I will be upfront when I say I like Bill Eigel, even though he hates my guts. But I like Bill Eigel, mainly because of the fact that he, see, to me, he's the guy that has championed, I think you'd probably agree with me, he's championed this personal property tax thing, okay? And
absolutely.
And what's so interesting about it is that what he says makes absolute positive sense in the respect that if you pull the personal property tax out of the budget, it's not like we lost half the money. It's like, what is it, like 1.8 billion or something like that, and the budget now is like 50 billion or something like this. Aren't those numbers close? Isn't the state budget?
Yeah, they're close. You're in the ballpark. Yeah.
Okay, so it's like, okay, like, you know, I could go through, and although he did this just the other day, what was it, last Friday, when Parson did the line item veto? You know,
the budget vetoes.
That's gone. Didn't he axe like several $1 billion?
He did. I think $1 billion, a cool $1 billion.
Okay, so once again, you know, I mean, look, I could go down to Jefferson City today, and I could cut a couple $1 million out of the budget just with walking around saying, "Hey, we don't need that. You know, what does that person do? Get rid of that person." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, why not? Or you could just sell all their office buildings, Brad, and move them to Chesterfield.
No.
And this message has been brought to you by Top Golf. I mentioned, Brad, that an internal poll is not an internal poll if it doesn't stay internal. Now, here's an interesting paragraph from Jason Hancock of the Missouri Independent. The American Dream PAC, the Political Action Committee supporting Kehoe, commissioned the June poll, but has not released it to the public. The Independent found it and the accompanying analysis on an obscure page of the PAC's website last week before it was taken down. So in other words, Jason Hancock, who's a smart guy, says, hey, look what I found on the PAC website. Now, Brad, I'm telling you, there is a 0% chance that folks at the American Dream PAC didn't want someone to find this poll if they posted it on their website.
What did Gomer Pyle say all the time? Well, golly gee, what was his
yeah. It was something to the effect of golly gee. What do you know? Like what are the chances here?
Right. Look what I found.
Clearly, and here's where it accomplishes a couple important goals here. If you're Kehoe and you go to your group of donors, who I think a lot of folks would consider them to be longtime Republicans, critics would call them the establishment or even the swamp. You go to your donors and you say, look, I've been telling you guys that this Eigel thing is real. Look at these numbers. In other words, buck up. Write me another check. You got to give me more money. This Eigel guy is real. Do you want this lunatic in the governor's office? And if you're Eigel, you take a look at these numbers and you say, see, guys, I told you. And you pump up your supporters. You pump up your donors who don't have much of an overlap with Mike Kehoe's donors, and you say, see, we are surging at the right time. And in fact, Brad, yesterday and last night on social media, all I saw, my entire thread, and it may be because of who I follow, but my entire thread is Eigel supporters saying, see, told you, we got the momentum, we're in this thing. So it accomplishes exactly what Kehoe needs. Pump a little bit more money out of your donors, establish Eigel as a real threat, scare him a little bit. And then also, if you're Eigel, you want Eigel's people to just be dunking on Ashcroft. Like, dude, look at what happened to Ashcroft. It's us and Kehoe now.
Okay, but you don't know about this because I'm sort of a night owl. About 2 o'clock this morning, did you see the quote that Mike Kehoe said?
I did not. Did it have to do with him luring you to a North City neighborhood?
No. It was he did a secret like conference call with a bunch of his donors, and he essentially say, "Look, if you guys don't give me more money, you could all get bent."
Oh, he did? Yeah. I mean, Eigel's lingo catches on. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
Hey, hashtag let's go Mo.
Okay. And last but not least,
the number one.
Brad, you say that Andrew Bailey has his own show on 97.1. Not to be outdone, Will Scharf appeared on 4 shows yesterday, and those are only the ones that I know about. There may have been even more. Top of my website today, Will Scharf was on Fox News talking about the Supreme Court victory for Donald Trump and its effects on the New York case. We can get to that in a minute too, Brad. Also, Will Scharf sat down with Jason Rosenbaum, our friend Jason Rosenbaum, for the Politically Speaking podcast. And I would call your attention to a fun interview. Any interview with Austin Peterson on the Wake Up America show is going to be fun. But it was a fun interview between Will Scharf, Austin Peterson. It was early in Austin's show yesterday. And here's my favorite quote from that. Austin asked what Will thought of AOC's call for impeaching Supreme Court justices. And Will called her, quote, Alexandria Occasional-Cortex. Now, to quote Larry the Cable Guy, I don't care who you are. That's funny right there.
Okay, so Will Scharf, this gets more interesting all the time. It's the battle of earned media, right? It's essentially,
it is, yeah.
For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, when you're in what John used to do with Monsanto / Bayer, when you're in the public relations / comms arena, there's 2 types of media. There's paid media where you buy ads like on this station, and there's earned media where you get your guest, you get your president, your CEO, or your head of engineering on 14 different talk shows for free. That's earned media, right?
Yeah.
So the interesting part of this is there's a story I need to talk to you about. Maybe we'll do it in the second or third block today about this guy, this radio guy, which is sort of an interesting story. But anyway, the Will Scharf thing, I mean, the polling on that, is that pretty much still a toss-up between him and Andrew Bailey?
Yeah, I think it is. I think most polls have shown Bailey over time with a lead. But Will mentions on Austin Peterson's show that the most recent poll has them pretty much neck and neck. Will is within, I believe, 1 point of the margin of error. The other thing I'd point out real quickly here, Brad, is that I also heard Will yesterday on 93.3. There is a brand new show in the afternoon. Remember how a gentleman named Roger Jackson and a woman named Catherine Dreyer, a couple months ago, they got a brand new show called The Drive for Freedom?
Didn't that take over the Brian Nieves show? Wasn't that what that was?
It did, yeah. So that show has been replaced by a gentleman named Ryan Hite. So Ryan Hite is a longtime conservative Republican political, I guess you could call him an operative. He's done a lot of work with the Phyllis Schlafly group. And he has a show now from 4 to 6 p.m. I heard his interview with Will, and he did a great job with that. So that is that slot now has gone from Nieves to The Drive for Freedom. And I believe Catherine Dreyer's husband has had some medical issues, so I believe that's why Catherine left. And anyway, but Ryan Hite did a great job in that interview. He also had Ed Martin on a little bit before Will came on. So that's the new slot on 93.3.
You know, I'm surprised at that because Tracy Ellis, since she's put that station on the air, that lineup has been rock solid. I don't think there's been but 1 or 2 changes the entire time she's had that station on the air. I mean, the staff she started off with, every single on-air person is still there on that station, 3 years later, something like that? I mean,
you were facing a severe handicap because since we won't be on the air yesterday, Brad, I don't think you're going to top last week's 7 separate Tracy Ellis references because you're only at number 1 right now, and it's Wednesday, Brad.
Well,
but you know what? I will never count you out, Brad.
We still have 38 minutes left today, so you never can tell. Okay, we have to take a break.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T. John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?